Welcome back. This go round, we're going to take a look at an oldie but goodie. And the reason why I like talking about World Heroes 2 is because it's one of those games, though, that it might not be the most polished or refined fighting game, but it's one of those fighting games that you actually come back to every now and then. And the reason why you come back to it every now and then is because it's actually a pretty fun game to play. A lot of comical moments in the game, and such a significant improvement over the original. The game came out in 1993. It's rated at, I think, $1.46, and basically the plot revolves around, I think, a scientist called Dr. Brown, who has a time machine where he actually basically uses the time machine to transport warriors from different time periods to fight. Nothing too revolutionary, but same old, same old. The combat system uses kind of like a sensitive touch system. It only uses 3 buttons, using A, B, and C. And A, if you tap it, it becomes a light punch. If you hold it down, it becomes a hard punch. Same with the kick, and then there's a throw button. But you can still accomplish throws by using, let's say, the A button or B button as designated for each individual player. So the thing is which is kind of decent at the time, and it actually pretty much works, believe it or not. Also, a unique feature with this game is that there's 2 modes. There's normal mode and deathmatch mode. Deathmatch mode basically is where you have one long life bar, and it's kind of like a seesaw or teeters back and forth. And when it goes down to red and all, the player gets knocked down, and I think you have to accomplish it twice. You can actually knock it down. And it's the reason why it's called deathmatch mode is because there's background or environment hazards such as oil, bombs, spikes, etc. Whereas the normal play is basically as any other fighting game, 2 out of 3, and getting your life bar down to 0. Alright, as you can see, there's a whole bunch of characters in here. If you've played the first World Heroes, you should be pretty much familiar. I'm just going to pick this standard ninja, Hanzo. And as you see here, you have the normal game, deathmatch mode. I think the deathmatch works pretty well in 2-player. So basically, the first World Heroes was, how would they say, it wasn't a bad game per se, but it wasn't a terribly good one. What it tried to do is be too many things all at once, and it couldn't find its own identity. Whereas here, World Heroes 2 kind of gets it right, because it establishes its own identity by not being a super serious fighting game, but establishing it as kind of like a comedic or other, you know, another choice to the fighting game genre. But the first game had terrible controls, and it was slow moving, and I think it only had like 8 characters, I believe. Whereas as here, it ramps up the roster and improves the control and the speed of the gameplay. Also, you have, what do you call it, not only the speed of the gameplay, controls, also you have like kind of like a preset type of combos for each of the characters, which is okay. It doesn't necessarily add anything, but you can still accomplish, you know, your jump kick, hard punch into like a fireball type of deal. So that's still present. There's not much really else to say other than that. But the problem is a lot of people kind of disregard the World Heroes series, and they really shouldn't, because I think the control is excellent. It adds a lot of appeal, and I don't think it takes itself too seriously, because it does have a lot of comedic elements into it, especially with the background. You'll see some hilarious stuff, let's say, especially when you get dropped hard from a throw. You might see characters react to, you know, the ground moving or shaking, and I think it's pretty funny, and I think it's adds a little bit to the game. But like I said, you can still play it as a serious fighting game, but I think people don't look at this game as a serious game. They most likely look to the Street Fighters or the King of Fighter types, because for their more in-depth gameplay. So, but it's another excellent alternative, because from World Heroes 2 on, I think the series actually improved. But it depends on the way you look at things and all. I actually like the World Heroes, and the first one was an okay game, but this game they actually really went back and redid everything. Everything from the graphics to the sound to the environments. Some of the stages are not bad. Some of them are downright nice to look at. And like I said, it's not supposed to be taking itself too serious. And World Heroes 2, you can actually find on various type of platforms. Actually, this one actually came as a Super Nintendo game, which actually wasn't a bad conversion by Takara. There's the World Heroes Anthology that you can find for the PlayStation 2. It might even be for the virtual consoles. It's actually a really good series but like I said, you have to start from this one to actually really appreciate where it was going. There's that projectile throw stuff. I don't know if I've mentioned that, but you can also counter throws, and the projection, you can actually deflect it, what you call it, back at your opponent, and the computer can do the same, but the problem is that the computer abuses the shit out of it. So that's the only problem. I think one of the main problems with this game is its difficulty. And I think the difficulty goes too fast into the start of the game, because you can understand when a game gets difficult because, you know, you're getting closer towards the end. But I think this game's difficulty is a little bit too much, I think. It comes too fast, too soon, I believe. That's in my opinion. And it's sometimes you have to rely on cheap tactics in order to get through some of the matches. And so that can actually turn off a lot of people. But if you can look past that, it's not a bad game per se. And I suggest you highly check it out. It's a really enjoyable game. And it's just one of those games it just doesn't take itself too serious. And that's something in a lot of fighting games that you miss nowadays, that, you know, it was a nice alternative to the super competitive type of fighting games that were out there. So go ahead, I suggest you highly check this out. It might not be for everyone, but I think it's a great alternative, and it shows you that some of the games can have a sense of humor without trying to be too serious, and yeah. Alright then, I'm out.